The end of the US dollar as we know it. Now, I know what you've been thinking. Wait, what? But hear me out. It turns out that more and more countries are teaming up to create their own alternative to the global world reserve currency, which has been the US dollar for a long time. This trend is called the de-dollarization and is definitely causing some concern and even despair in the US over the looming end of America's global financial dominance. But let's not get too gloomy here. I'm here to help you understand what's going on and how it might affect us. First thing first, let's talk about what it means to be a world reserve currency. Before the US dollar dominated this status, there were others, like France and the Great Britain. The US dollar became the world reserve currency after the Bretton Woods Agreement was created, which was about 100 years ago. But billionaire Ray Dalio says that this kind of change happens about every 94 years. So technically, we are overdue for a change. Now let's get to the fun part. Why is this happening all of a sudden? Well, once a currency becomes a world reserve currency, it usually comes with some new superpowers. First up is stability, which allows for international trade. And who doesn't love trade, am I right? Plus, if you want to trade with other countries, you need a common language and a common money that everyone can agree on. Most countries just don't trust each other because they don't know how much the other country is printing its own monetary supply. So, they need a world reserve currency that's backed by something stable and valuable. The second superpower is that the country with the world reserve currency becomes an investing powerhouse. Because the world likes to use the most stable money, which is currently the US dollar, they also have to have a dollar wallet. These are called foreign exchange reserves, which are partially held in dollars. But not every country will use all of the money inside its dollar wallet. So what it doesn't use, it will invest into US treasuries and securities. And let me tell you, some countries like Japan, China, and the UK are seriously invested in US assets. All in all, the US has anywhere between $7 to $8 trillion worth of foreign investment, and that's about the same size as the entire GDP of Germany, the UK, and India combined. Talk about a powerhouse. But the most exciting superpower, in my opinion, is the dollar's exclusive ability to buy oil. Yup, you heard that right. Shortly after World War II, the US created something called the Bretton Woods Agreement, which essentially tied all currencies around the world to the US dollar. And the dollar became extremely powerful because of it. But a couple of decades later, something happened. In 1971, the US ran out of money and President Richard Nixon announced to the world that 35 US dollars would no longer redeem 1 ounce of gold. Instead, the only thing that dollars would be able to redeem is just more debt. But why didn't the rest of the world go back to using their own currency? Because they couldn't. Thanks to the third superpower, the petrodollar. In 1945, President Franklin Roosevelt promised the King of Saudi Arabia protection in exchange for the US to have the exclusive right to develop oil from Saudi Arabia. This means that if another country wants to buy oil because they need to power their country, they also need, you guessed it right, US dollars. And that's the birth of the petrodollar. So, what does all of this mean for the future of the US dollar? Well, with the rise of new powers like Russia and China, there's been a lot of talk about creating a new world reserve currency, which would likely cause the value of the US dollar to drop. In fact, China has already been working on creating its own digital currency, the digital yuan, which could become a major player in the global financial system. And in recent months, Brazil and Argentina have discussed the creation of a common currency for the two largest economies in South America in order to reduce their reliance of the US dollar. Another example of this would be that the UAE and India are in talks to use rupees to trade non-oil commodities in a shift away from the dollar. One last example would be that for the first time in 48 years, Saudi Arabia said that the oil-rich nation is open to trading in currencies besides the US dollar. On top of that, there is also cryptocurrency, which is doing just this too. But let's not get too carried away. Despite these movements, few expect to see the end of the dollar's global sovereign status anytime soon. Currently, central banks still hold about 60% of their foreign exchange reserves in dollars, and therefore the US dollar still holds a lot of power and is not going anywhere anytime soon. Plus, if a new world reserve currency does emerge, it will likely take decades for it to replace the US dollar completely. And who knows, maybe the US will adapt and find new ways to maintain its financial dominance, such as CBDCs. So there you have it folks, the end of the US dollar might not be as scary as it seems. It's just a sign of the ever-evolving world of finance And as long as we stay informed and adaptable, we will just be fine. Thanks for tuning in and catch you on the flip side.